Hello, and welcome to Introducing Me. I'm your host, Sarah. I started this podcast to get to know other people and lifestyles while discovering more about myself. Each episode, I'll give a new guest a chance to discuss their background, culture, interests, or whatever they want to talk about to help increase all of our own worldviews. Today, I would like to introduce you to Amanda. She is a current college student who is on TikTok sharing lots of great things about her Japanese culture, her love of music, and her great love of Phineas and Ferb. So I'm excited to hear from her today and get to know her. So Amanda, why don't you go ahead, say hello, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Amanda. I am a current college student at Vanderbilt University. I'm a junior there studying human and organizational development. And other than my time at college, I'm also a TikToker. I post a lot, like you said, about Japanese culture, music, and Phineas and Ferb.
It's a quite eclectic group of topics you have, especially because none of them relate to your college degree.
Oh, not at all.
So why are you studying what you're studying?
So I came into college with the idea of being a doctor. I came in, I was like, all right, I'm going to be pre med. I'm going to grind through and I'm going to make it out and go to med school. But the second I got to Gen Chem, I realized I was not cut out for it. I did not really like science and I didn't like the chemistry I had to face. And I made the decision to just kind of drop that and follow, I guess, something that I would want to do. I'm Asian American, so I grew up with the idea in my head always that you have to be a doctor, you have to be going to med school after college, like that's the path. But and I believed in that path for a while, but then I realized it wasn't for me and I wanted to pursue other things. So I switched over to human and organizational development, which is sort of like an applied psych and business and consulting major and marketing. It's really whatever you want it to be. It's a very general thing, but it starts off very general and then you like hone in on what you want to learn about. So I started that and I'm glad that I did because now with TikTok, I can kind of use my major to kind of talk in terms of business with like different partners and brands. And I just it kind of goes hand in hand with being a TikToker and handling the business side of it and also studying literal business.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the business side of TikTok?
Yeah. So most people think that TikTokers make most of their revenue in the creator fund, which for most people, that's not the case. Like you could get a million views and still not make more than 2 hours worth of a minimum wage job. So um, I make most of my revenue through collaborations and partnerships with brands. So brands will reach out to me, ask to work on something, make a TikTok on my end or YouTube video or Instagram post about something. And then they pay me to do that. So that's how I make most of my revenue. And then also going live on TikTok, you receive gifts. So I make a lot more in gifts than I do with the Creator Fund.
Awesome. And what was it like getting that first brand deal?
Oh my gosh. It was great. I had my first brand deal I got offered. And for the first few I definitely turned down because they I'll be honest, the first one I got was the Coldest Water. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or seen that. They're not very ethical to their creators. They, for example, will offer, I heard someone say that they got offered $50 to post 10 videos with the Coldest Water. And that's not even $10 a video. That's like ridiculous. No matter what your following is, you shouldn't be paid that little for that much content. And so I turned down deals like that until I finally got one that was reasonable and I knew that they were paying creators the amount they deserved. And that was so awesome to finally get paid just for being a personality to talk about a brand. It was awesome.
That's really cool, and to be so young to get those opportunities and be able to say like, "I'm gonna handpick what I wanna do." So I'm sure that that's a
Mhm.
great option.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So one of the things that I found you on TikTok for, and as you mentioned, is that you're Asian American and you recently, I believe, just were in Japan.
Yeah, I just got back literally about 5 days ago.
So can you talk a little bit about that trip?
Yeah. So I am always in Japan when I'm not in school. So I'm there every year since I was in first grade. I'd go there for my entire summer breaks and my entire winter breaks. So I'm there pretty much half the time. I'm half the year. And so this time it was winter break slash Thanksgiving break for my school. We once we hit Thanksgiving, everyone was sent home. So I just flew to Japan to be there. And I was there till now, which is about mid-March. I was supposed to come back in January, but I had an issue with my passport. And so I had to get a new passport shipped to me while I was in Japan. And with, uh, it's not official, but I believe it's probably because of the change in office nationally and also the slowing of the postal service that's happened over the past few months. My passport was supposed to get back to me early January, and it didn't get here till March 10th. So there was a huge delay. So I was stuck in Japan essentially, and I was there with my family because I'm always there to take care of my grandmother. But I was there for a lot longer than I anticipated, and it was nice. Japan is a lot better with the coronavirus, so I was able to do more than I could here. But I was really anxious to get back here. Speaking of brain deals, I had a mountain of packages awaiting me to come back and review and post about. So,
Oh gosh. And how was doing classes while being in Japan?
oh, it was not fun. All of my classes are online because I'm remote right now, but they're all synchronous and in Central Time Zone. And being in Japan, where it was about like 17 hours ahead. I was taking classes in the middle of the night. So, for example, most nights I stayed up from 2 to 6 a.m. and then I had a break and then I had to get back up again at 9 a.m. for another class. And then I could go to sleep. So I'd go to class in the middle of the night, go to sleep, wake up in the evening, do my homework, do my TikToks, go to class, and then sleep and repeat.
Oh gosh. Well, you're very resilient for getting through all of that and not saying, I'm going to just take a break for the semester.
Thank you. Yeah.
So obviously, your grandmother's in Japan. What is it
Mhm.
like, going to Japan every year?
It's so I'm so blessed that I'm able to get to travel there every year and really have my life in two separate countries and live in basically two different worlds. Um, Japan is so different from the States. The culture, the technology, just everything about it is just so different. And I find it as kind of like an escape from the United States. And it's awesome that I can go every year because I feel like I really do live in both countries, which I do. I'm a dual citizen. But it's just it's eye opening. And I think it's like if anyone from the United States hadn't left the country and went to visit Japan, they'd be shocked because I feel like in America, we're trained to think that the US is the greatest country in the world and nothing about any other country is better than the States. But when you leave and go to other countries like Japan, you realize, hey, there are other countries that are just as good, if not better. And I don't know, everything about the quality of life there is just amazing and spectacular. And it doesn't even seem real. It just kind of feels like a dream, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it does. And I think you're right that we kind of get this weird brainwashing that you don't realize until you're out of the country.
Hmm.
So what are the things that are most different about the culture and the way of life?
So you learn a lot of times people use this example in it's like psychology, the individualistic versus collectivist mindset in different cultures, and they often compare the U.S. and Japan, and that's definitely something that's actually really really noticeable. In America, of course, we kind of put ourselves first, and we kind of do things for us. But in Japan, it's kind of like the opposite. You do things for other people before you think about yourself, and oftentimes, like for example, if you're like walking to the subway in America, it's just very much like everyone's kind of doing their own thing. But in Japan, it's you just naturally form lines and like move to certain sides and you're respectful and there's just natural like conformity, which can also be toxic when you're trying to like keep your own individuality as a person. But when you're kind of working in large groups, whether it be public transportation or when you're working on projects on teams or if you're doing really anything, it really does help with large numbers because people naturally do things and you don't have to guide them like you would in America. But that's definitely something that's really interesting. And also with the collectivism, it's like in Japan, there's this thing called omotenashi, which is basically where you make sure everything that you do is the best that it possibly can be and creates the best experience for whoever's working with you. So, and customer service is just phenomenal there. Like everything about it. Like, for example, one thing I like to note is when you're on an airline, let's say you're on American Airlines, you often, at least on international flights, the crew, the flight attendants, they're not always the nicest people. The thing I remember growing up specifically was just being there on American Airlines, the flight attendant coming up to me and just going, "What do you want? Chicken or beef? Hurry up, make your decision," and just really being very cold. But when you go on, for say, Japan Airlines, they come up to you, they hand you the menu very gracefully. They point and describe to you everything about each possible meal that you could have, and then saying, "Take your time, but which one would you like?" And then you point, and then they graciously bow, and then they present to you your meal. And this is all in economy class. Like I fly coach everywhere, no matter what airline I'm on. And then they like graciously present this to you and are just making sure your experience is the best it can be, no matter what class you're in. And it's just amazing.
It sounds amazing. Now it's been a while since I have had a meal on a plane or been on a plane, but just the idea of customer service being an enjoyable experience is something that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you ever had any issues then transitioning back and forth, which with such a different cultural mindset?
Well, first the jet lag, of course, when you transition from one place to the other. But I'd say, yeah, I feel like culturally I don't fit in exactly to either one because I'm half Japanese and half American. So like I'm kind of in this like middle ground where when I'm in Japan, oh, I'm this loud foreigner, but when I'm in America, I'm this like quiet Japanese gal. But yeah, so it's like, for example, if I'm in Japan, I tend to just kind of like speak my mind, but I'm still respectful and polite. Like I have that bit of Japanese in me, but also there's that bit of American where I'm gonna like kind of rise up and be my own leader and speak my mind when I need to, which often gives you glances. For example, if I talk on the train, I guess it's just an American thing, but I'll be with my friends and we just naturally become kind of loud and people just kind of look at you like, you need to be quiet, you're on the train. But also in America, I don't know, I feel like I'm not the strongest person to like speak my mind. I'm strong, but not the strongest. And I feel like I have to be respectful of people to a much larger extent than the average American. I'll like hold back on what I want to say because I feel like I have to respect somebody. So it's just like I'm in a weird middle ground. But honestly, I feel like that's probably a good thing. And I feel like it's good to have both sides and understand and take the best of both worlds, like Hannah Montana, and apply it to myself. So
Yeah, no, I think it's a good outlet. Now, outlook. That was the word I was looking for, was outlook, not outlet. Um, so what has it been like growing up with your family? You know, so your mom's Japanese, your dad's American. So what
Mhm.
has that been like?
It has been interesting. So my family dynamic is weird. I'm the only child and the only grandchild in my direct family. My parents had me late, so like my grandparents were around during World War II. So with that, that obviously impacts, myself and my mother on my mother's side, um, and the family dynamic there. So um, for me growing up, I always felt very accepted and loved by my grandparents who were Japanese on my mother's side. They loved me unconditionally. They spoiled me as grandparents do. They loved me, and I felt like I can trust them with anything. I'm very, very, very close to them. On my American side, however, I did not feel that. I felt very much like an outsider to my own family. I felt like even though I was the only grandchild, it felt like there wasn't another kid, but it felt like I wasn't considered like their favorite, even though there wasn't a favorite to pick from. I just felt very unwelcomed. And, it makes, when I look back and give perspective to it, my American grandparents, my grandfather was in the Navy during World War II, and my grandmother stayed home and was flooded with propaganda by the US. And so, and a lot of this, I guess, racism was kind of really brought and nurtured up by my grandmother as opposed to my grandfather on my American side. So she would kind of fuel this like weird perspective, and then my grandfather would just kind of have to side with her since they were married. And so I always just kind of felt unwelcomed, and I don't know, it's been interesting. And I just know, like, when my parents were deciding to get married, my grandmother didn't have the best outlook on that, because we have this completely white family and this family tree, and then it's hindered by another race, and then on top of that, having their only grandchild be half of their enemy. It was hard. And it's like they still loved me in quotation marks, but it's just like, I know I didn't feel like a genuine love. It was just kind of a more for show love. But when my grandma on my American side passed away, then my grandfather was able to kind of open up to me before he passed, which was nice. But obviously there was so much time to make up before he passed away to get to the level of love and acceptance that I had from my other grandparents. And I don't think it would have ever matched that. And I'm grateful for all of my grandparents, but I really felt love and acceptance, unconditional love and acceptance from my Japanese side. So it's made me kind of just feel like, I don't even know if I don't know. Growing up, I just didn't even want to identify as American because of that. And so I just always pushed that I was Japanese. I was like, I am Japanese. I'm not American. I'm not white, even though I'm half white. Yeah, that's kind of my long-winded story.
And it sounds like that must have been so difficult. So I appreciate the fact that you're willing to share that.
No problem.
Now, you just made this offhand statement of, you're Japanese, you are half white. On TikTok, you've been getting this sort of like, you're not Japanese, you are white. Why are you appropriating culture? And you've made tons of videos about it because you are Japanese. So can you talk a little bit about what that's been like?
Yeah. So I've posted, since I've been in Japan, I've been posting things that I've just been doing in Japan. For example, I went to an onsen, which is like a hot spring spa type of thing in Japan. And when you go there, you wear a yukata, which is like it's a kimono style robe, but it has a thin kind of cotton material. And you use that when you go to the hot springs before you disrobe. And it's just kind of this light thing you wear. And so I made a TikTok in it, not thinking anything of it, and just doing my thing. And then I got a lot of comments telling me, hey, you can't do that. You're white. And I was taken aback because I've never been white passing my life. I mean, granted, I grew up in the South, where in a suburb where I was the only Asian person in my school. But I was shocked that people would even think that. And so I was just shocked, and people were telling me, you can't do this, you're white, you're white, you're white. And I was like, but I'm not. And so I made videos being like, I'm Japanese. This has never happened to me before. I'm very confused, but this is my mother. She's very clearly Japanese. And then it's interesting because people say, you're white, you're white, you're white. But then when you call people out and say, hey, I'm not full white. I'm half Japanese. Then all the comments are, oh, why on earth are people thinking you're white? You look so Japanese. Like, I would have never said that. And it's just interesting because when I don't make those clarification videos, everyone tells me I'm white. And it's a little frustrating, and a lot of times I feel like those people who say you're white, they're coming from good places. They don't want people to appropriate cultures. And like, I appreciate that. But sometimes it just goes a little too far, and people just are forgetting that for people of different races don't all look alike. They don't all fall under a certain stereotype. There are so many people, they're mixed people. It's a spectrum,
Definitely. Now, did you have trouble in school being in the South, being the only Asian student?
I was fortunate enough to really not have too much direct racism towards me. It was more, I feel like a lot of kids, and growing up in the South, like, you can't blame them. They don't have the exposure to this. They would just say, like, hey, can you speak Chinese? And I'm like, I don't know Chinese, but I do know Japanese. But it wasn't like an ill thing. But they're like, oh, okay, then can you speak Japanese for me? And I would speak, and they'd be like, oh, that's so cool. And also a huge issue that a lot of people have if they're not from the States is when they have their the lunchroom, when you bring in lunch and it's different from everybody else's and people make fun of it or bully people for it. My mother, I think she knew that that was something that could happen to me. So when she would make my lunches, she would wake up at like 4 a.m. and spend hours making really pretty bento boxes that had themes. So she would take like the seaweed and like cheese and stuff and like make art out of my food, like with the rice and everything. And so people thought I was really cool. And they would always ask me about Japanese culture and they would be genuinely excited to learn. But also I did face the whole, my mom is Chinese, my dad is Japanese, my grandma's Korean, and this is what I look like. And it's where they take their hands and they like their fingers and they move their eyes into different shapes and then at the end make their faces disconfigured as they can. Which, you know, obviously it wasn't a fun experience, but I was fortunate enough to not really let it affect me too much, and it really, but yeah, that, and really, I had more issues with parents than I did with children my age. Like I would go to sleepovers, and all the kids loved me, but when my mom dropped me off, they would look at my mother so weirdly and then look at me so weirdly and just be very cold to me, but then so warm and inviting to the rest of the kids. So it was like, being around parents was never fun. I never looked forward to it because I just knew what was going to happen to me. But other than that, I've had a positive experience with the people I grew up with, and I feel like I was able to educate them and they educated me, and it was a good learning experience growing up.
And what's your experience been like at Vanderbilt?
Um, Definitely a lot better. It was so wonderful to go to a place where there's so much diversity, and there were more people who are Asian like me. I unfortunately didn't have a positive experience with the Asian American community, and it's not everybody there, but before we moved in, there was a group chat of Asian Americans, and so we all talked in there all the time till we moved in. But once we moved in, and they saw that I wasn't a full Asian, B, whitewashed in a way, they didn't accept me like they did their others, and just kind of slowly distanced themselves from me. Which was unfortunate because I wanted to be able to have like Asian American friends, and so it was interesting. But I've made a lot of friends that are diverse from all different countries and backgrounds, and it's been good. I mean, there was an issue where I recently with Barstool, a Barstool account for Barstool Vandy, they posted a lot of content that humorized fetishizing Asian people, and that was all posted before the hate crimes. And I always commented on that, and I always told them to delete, but they never did. But then once all these hate crimes happened, and I was like, they must know that stuff like this encourages people to eventually lead down paths that can end in hate crimes. But I saw those posts were still up, so I called them out, and they eventually deleted them, but they never apologized for it, or provided any resources about Asian hate, which was unfortunate. But I mean, I think I would be less hurt by it if it wasn't run by Vanderbilt students. But I know that it is run by someone that goes to my school who is probably white, given the background of Barstool Vandy. And it's frustrating to see that there's still some people in my like my own community, where I thought I feel so welcomed, to know like deep down there are still people who are just going to treat people terribly. But I've had an overall much more positive experience than I did growing up in the South, even though it's still in the South.
Yeah. And I mean, I think unfortunately there's always going to be those people. And as long as, there's more and more people who are doing good and being good people, then it can hopefully outweigh it.
Yeah, for sure.
So going back to TikTok, Why did you join TikTok?
Oh my gosh. So at first, I thought TikTok was just this thing where people post dances and lip syncs and it's so cringy, and I would never join something like that. Um, but in about fall of 2019, I was in a theater production with my friend Kenzie, and Kenzie was the TikTok campus representative at the time. So her job was to tell people to download the app. And she finally broke me after a whole semester of me saying, I'm not going to download this. This is not for me. She finally got me to download it. And then I went through my feed, liked what I liked, and I got a very nicely curated For You page. I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. But I just kind of was someone who viewed TikTok but didn't post. But once the pandemic started and we all got sent home, I had nothing to do. And so I started posting, and I really didn't post much before I started getting hits, which is really awesome. And I'm really fortunate for that. I started posting a lot of acapella stuff. I made acapella arrangements all the time in my free time, and I would post them. And things like I made a Wii Sports theme, but acapella, and that was my first thing that really blew up. And then I started going into more meme type music, or like comedy type songs that just aren't like mainstream what you hear on the radio. I tried to add a little bit of humor in. And then I eventually started posting some Phineas and Ferb stuff. Like I posted a Perry the Platypus acapella, and that blew up. It started this duet chain with the person who beatboxed, and then my friend Sophia, who added the Perry the Platypus noise, like the thing. And then eventually Dan Povenmire also duetted it, and then he added him doing the Dr. Doofenshmirtz voice. And I don't know, things just really took off from there. I've steered around with different topics, but yeah.
And so, where did you learn to sing and get your love for arranging a cappella music?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Um, in first grade, we had a holiday concert. I remember I was so young, and I had always enjoyed music class, but I never really thought about singing until my music teacher was like, "Hey, we're gonna have a solo in this one piece. All I want for Christmas is my two front teeth. So if anyone wants to audition for it, we'll do it next summer in class." And I don't know if it was just me being ambitious because I always wanted to be number one at everything I did in school from a young age. But I was like, I want this solo. And so I told my mom, and then I practiced it a couple times. And then I went off to the audition in class, and then I got the solo. And then I just loved singing from there on. And I would always audition for solos and in these concerts that my school would have. Like, I remember the next solo I had was me singing the entirety of Best of Both Worlds by Hannah Montana as a solo in this spring concert we had. Very random piece to like sing, but I did it. And I just kept singing from there on out. I never had any formal lessons, but I just sang. And then eventually I found Pitch Perfect when I was older in like middle school. And I fell in love with that movie. And I was like, I love making, because I would make covers just for fun, and I'd be like, oh well, learning instruments it's just so much work. I don't like having to like learn the chords and make sure I can go through them seamlessly. This acapella stuff looks way easier. All you have to do is just have a bunch of vocal parts. You don't have to learn how to like put your fingers on the frets or anything. So I was like, I'm gonna try that, and I found out through that I have perfect pitch, and I was able to just kind of listen to a song and then just kind of build the chords on my own. And so I would start doing that, and I just slowly got a lot of practice with it and started really honing in on the craft. And then eventually I am where now I am today.
Awesome. And what's it like having perfect pitch?
Oh, it's fun. I like it because I can just kind of be like, what's the middle C? I'm like, like just kind of go off and be a human pitch pipe for my friends when they need a note. It's fun.
Good. Now, we talked a little beforehand, and you recently just mentioned Dan Povenmire from Phineas and Ferb and all of the good things that he does. So what has it been like? He follows you on TikTok. Talk a little bit about Dan.
Dan is just one of my favorite people ever. He's one of my first like TikTok mutual friends that I made. He is so great. I would post some Phineas and Ferb stuff, and he found me and would always comment on things, and we've just become friends now, like good friends. And so he'll comment on anything I post. It doesn't have to be Phineas and Ferb related, and he's always got my back. He'll always respond to anything I say, and he'll come up with witty comments in my comment section. Um, we've worked on collabs together before. I did a whole thing called 28 Days of Phineas and Ferb, where from August 1st to August 28th, I uploaded a Phineas and Ferb themed video every day leading up to the premiere of Candace Against the Universe, which was like a newer movie that came out last August on Disney Plus. And so I worked with him on that, and we collabed on that. And I don't know, it's great to have a friend, and he's just kind of like my internet dad. Like he just gives me all the best advice, and he always is there for me and to help me and just to be a supporter, and it's great. He's just a great friend. And one day, whenever I get the chance, once the pandemic is over, I got to go to LA and I got to see him and grab lunch with him. Very excited for that day.
Yeah, I'm sure that must have been a little surreal, just casually posting and having a Phineas and Ferb video go viral, and then to be able to become friends with the creator.
Yeah, it's insane. Him and Swampy are just great. Love them.
Yeah. So, what else would you like to share with the listeners about your life?
I don't know. My life is just basically eat, sleep, breathe, TikTok, and school. So it's been an interesting ride. It's really changed my life for the best. I was able to make so many awesome friends. Some of them I've been fortunate enough to even meet. And it's so weird, and it's let me have a great group of internet friends and build a community of my own that's not tied to my school, which has been pretty much all of my friendships before. It's people I've met because of my forced or required education, and just to find people that I'm friends with because we have such shared interests. Like I FaceTime my group of TikTok friends every single night, and we just talk for hours and hours. We have never met each other. None of us live in the same state. We all live across the country, but we all just come together every night and just have a good time. And so I'm very, very grateful for TikTok and its community.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Now, what are your plans post college?
Post college. Oh, it just changes all the time, honestly. I obviously the dream would be to do TikTok and social media full time, but I'm Asian, as we know, and that probably will not fly with my family. So, I mean, part of me wants to go into just a regular consulting, but also part of me wants to go into marketing on social media, uh, working for a social media company, maybe even working for TikTok. That'd be insane. I would love that. But yeah, I've just really been focused. I've gone from wanting to do medicine, but now I'm just kind of finding my passion of, working in a business environment and working on marketing and creating brand marketing campaigns, really. So hopefully that's the direction. Maybe music in the future. I don't even know. We'll see.
Oh, and you've still got time. Now, you kind of just mentioned it there. How are your parents with you being on TikTok?
Oh, my mom just got TikTok a couple days ago, and she just followed me, and I'm like, "Oh no, my mom is gonna see all my content. I don't want that, but I guess I have to deal with it." um, my mom is very supportive of it. She always asks me, like, she knows I'm posting something, she'll be like, "How are the views? Is it doing well? Are you getting a lot of views, or is it not working? Like, what happened?" And I update her. I'm like, "Oh, it's at 10K views. We're doing good so far." And she's like, "Oh, good, good." Or she'll be like, "Hey, we should go do this. Maybe you can make a TikTok out of it." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for the inspo." My dad, on the other hand, it's interesting because he works in media. He's a meteorologist on the Middle Tennessee ABC affiliate News 2. And so he's literally in media. But because TikTok is so new, he just doesn't get it. He'll be like, "Why aren't you posting on YouTube anymore? Post there. That's what matters." I'm like, "No, the world is on TikTok. You're just the one who's not on TikTok." And so he doesn't really get it. And he thinks I'm just posting silly things, but I think hopefully one day he'll understand. I think he just needs to dip his toes in one day, or maybe one of his coworkers can show him, and then he'll take it a little more seriously.
Right, or have your mom show him and be like, "Hey, this is what she's doing."
Yeah, no, for maybe that'll get him to understand.
Oh gosh, that's too good. Now, this might be a kind of weird question, but was it
Mhm.
weird growing up with your dad on TV?
It was always interesting. It was fun, and seeing my dad on the new like TV all the time, and all my friends and their parents and my teachers all knowing who my dad was. He's a local celebrity, and so there were a lot of benefits to it. People be like, "Oh, you're his daughter. Oh, that's wonderful," and they'd be nicer to me, which I think especially helped being a minority in the South, having that local celebrity white man being my dad. So they respected me a little bit more when they knew that. Um, and it's been fun. My dad's gotten to go to lots of events and speak at them, or like be the MC for Disney on Ice when it came to Nashville. And so, got to go and experience a lot of fun events that my dad got to go to, uh, and really know the media world from that perspective. So it was nice. It's still fun. I know he's still grinding. I'm surprised he hasn't retired yet, but he's still doing it. He's actually out right now at the news station. He's storm tracking because we have tornadoes moving in tonight, and so he's just been over there. He's probably going to cut in on some random TV show and everyone's going to get mad when they storm track. But yeah,
But you gotta know where the storms are. You can't be mad when it's an active storm. Like that's just
yes, it's dangerous, and like if the tornado comes and you don't know about it, then you could literally die. So he's out there trying to save everyone's lives. So
there you go. Well, I think that's all the questions then that I have for you. So before we wrap up, with all of my guests, I ask a random question that's less about life. It's a little bit different. So my question for you, since you are young, is what quote unquote old person thing do you do?
what old person thing do I do? Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. Um, I used to like to knit. That's very old, I think. Um, I don't do it as much anymore, but when I was little, I was all about knitting and like sewing and stuff like that, and making really they weren't good clothes. I would make like random hats out of like one piece of fabric, and it was just like awful, but I thought it looked cool, and I would just make lots of things with random fabric and a needle and thread. So, yeah.
That's okay. Are you good with the Gen Z label?
I am. Yeah. I'm in that weird cusp where it's like I thought I was a millennial growing up, and but then I find out I'm Gen Z because I'm like when you look up Gen Z and millennials, they have an overlap in the years, so it's like you don't know which one you are, and they're like, oh, I guess you're a millennial then. But I think I identify a lot more with Gen Z. I mean, growing up, I was that kid. I did love BuzzFeed, so I was very millennial-y. But then I think when I discovered, the Gen Z culture, I was like, oh, that's more me. And I strayed away from millennial tendencies, I guess. But millennials are cool. I don't hate them. So
Oh gosh, well that's a great way to end it on not hating millennials because I'm a millennial. So. All right, that brings this episode to a close. And of course, I will be leaving Amanda's TikTok in the description, so go on and check her out. And I have updated the podcast website, so we do have now a full website, introducingmepodcast.com, which will bring you to the links to all of the social media and the Patreon page for monetary support, and also links to YouTube, where the Sunday after the episodes are posted, I post the audio version, which is always an audio podcast, but I post it to YouTube with closed captions, so that link is there as well, and now it's all in one nice little place instead of all of the other things. So feel free to go check that out. And thank you, Amanda, so much for spending time with me today, and to my listeners for taking the time out of your day to hear a new story. Until next time, bye!
Thank you. Bye.